Welcome, huntsmen and women out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, back with another RWBY episode review. This time it's season 6, episode 9, titled Lost. I'm thinking about that one scene with Stitch from Lilo and Stitch where he's all alone. He just starts saying, "I'm lost." It's very sad. Back on actual track here. We pick up with Mercury and Emerald kind of discussing things, and Emerald specifically is going through a bit of a crisis of identity to a certain degree, as without Cinder around, she doesn't quite feel like this is where she belongs. And she's very much trying to get a serious answer out of Mercury. Mercury, on the other hand, is just down for whatever. If Salem wants to just take over the world, he's down for it because he'll get anything he wants at that point. Be top dog, as he puts it. And Emerald's not satisfied with that. The only reason she even joined was because Cinder was there, and Cinder was very much like a almost mother figure to her, kind of like an older sister. And without Cinder, Emerald is just kind of lost, which has kind of been miffing a lot of people in terms of this, because they feel that this kind of diminishes Emerald's character to a certain degree. But honestly, it gives a little bit more depth to her character as a whole. She's not evil for the sake of being evil. She's in this position because someone she admires and looks up to is also in this position. And without them there, it's just like she's wondering, why is she even involved with this anymore? What's the point? Emerald is, Mercury, is not the person to turn to when you're looking for some sympathy to a certain degree. And he lays it all on the line, saying, Cinder never cared about you. She never cared about me. She doesn't care about anything. She was just in this for herself and her own selfish goals. You were less than nothing to her. And naturally, Emerald starts striking at Mercury for this. But Mercury's not holding back. They pretty much get into a little bit of a tussle. Although it's pretty obvious they're not taking it that seriously. It's just a very immature fight. You can tell where there are fights between two people who aren't really looking to actually outright hurt each other, and this is that. But Emerald goes over his whole backstory, over the fact that his father was a bastard. He was a jerk who, beat him down in the form of training, stole his semblance, did all these horrible, terrible things to him. And, he's just looking out for number one, because if nothing else, that's what his father taught him. And I gotta tell you, this whole moment is a breath of fresh air to me, because we haven't really gotten a moment to just sit down with these characters and get some insight into what's going on in their mental state. Yeah, we got their backgrounds and stuff along those lines, but we've only seen them reacting to stuff. We haven't seen them talking about stuff, which is very crucial if you want to build a three-dimensional character. But this is kind of interrupted by Tyrion, who to a certain degree is trying to play devil's advocate to a certain degree, because he comes in, starts mocking Mercury for the most part, saying it's just like, oh, you just were raised in a world of violence and now you just are in it because you don't know anything else. That's all there is to your life. So Mercury tries to have a go at Tyrion, but Tyrion's a little too wily for him. But Tyrion gives this cryptic message to them, saying that they should do what they want. Anything they want. If you don't love what you're doing, then you're on the wrong field. And he tells them to do what they love. Meanwhile, him and Watts are just going to go off and do what they can to prevent Ironwood from coming to his senses and forming an alliance with the various other Huntsman Academies out there and military forces. Because, right now, Ironwood's whole regime is kind of under suspicion. That's why the borders of Atlas are all closed and all that good stuff, because the rest of the world is very much against them. But if Ironwood kind of, starts talking to other people and getting the word out and all that other stuff, it would jeopardize a lot of the planning that Salem has going at the moment. And he just leaves, just reminding Mercury and Emerald, just like, do what you want, what will make you happy. And he's obviously leading them into something. It is very obvious that they know he's leading them into something, but what he's leading them to do, what thing that he's trying to provoke them into doing, is very much unknown. Is he setting them up to be destroyed by Sail? And what is the end goal here? What is Tyrion trying to accomplish by trying to push them into action? Very interesting, very curious. Meanwhile, we pick up with Jean, Nora, and Ren, with Jean's sister, trying their best in order to find and oh god, Oscar. Almost forgot his name there. But, ultimately John's sister, tries to convince him to stay in town, maybe become a huntsman here and all that good stuff. But John's not certain. And, his sister's not dumb. She knows that he and his team are kind of off-kilter ever since they met up with the others, and that's because they have the information that they do have about how the state of things, how they're pretty much fighting an impossible battle at this point, and they're not uncertain about what to do from here on out. But, ultimately his sister goes off to pick up her son from daycare and all that good stuff, and John kind of just keeps wallowing in defeat as he blames himself for Oscar leaving, the things he said and how it was just unfair to Oscar to a certain degree. So he just decides to go off on his own as Ren and Nora go off to get a warm toasty beverage on this cold winter's night. However, as he searches, John, is almost pulled towards something specific by a fallen amber leaf, which, symbolism. It is the spirit of a long since lost friend, namely Fira. He ends up stumbling upon her very memorial, and we find out that this is actually where Fira was from. And of all people, although it's not exactly specifically stated, I believe this is Fira's mother who we run into, who, as Jean, continues to kind of wallow in a bit of self-pity, saying that he should have been the one to die at the fall of Beacon, Fira should have never had to lose her life and stuff like that. It was a pointless sacrifice to him. He just continues to just berate himself. But his mother ultimately says, Fira's whole goal in life was to become a huntress, and that she would do what she can to protect anyone and everyone, even if it meant being in a no-win situation, because that's just the kind of person that she was. And this serves as a bit of a wake-up call to John. It's what he really needed to hear from someone who just made him think of someone who inspired him so much. Fira's presence has been something that, honestly, I wish we still had around to a certain degree, because just the influence that she had on John was so much for the better, and did so much for her character as a whole, and it is very sorely missed from this series. And as the others meet up with John in the presence of Fira's statue, John takes this moment to try to apologize to Ren and Nora for how he's been acting. And, they're just like, dude, please just get it together. We overheard what you said to Salem back at, way back when we encountered her and her group. And you need to stop thinking like this. This self-destructive actions and all this. They've given him enough time to come to terms with a lot of things, and they feel that he's in a good enough place to just be like, dude, get over it. Move forward, because we don't want to lose another friend. That's the thing about loss. It's just like, you end up sometimes losing more than just one person who's passed away. Grief can take everything from you and the people around you, especially when you had a mutual friend who you cared very deeply about. You end up losing a lot of things, and there's just this emptiness. And it's very hard for people to regain this. A lot of people can attest to this, because loss is not mutually exclusive. And I'm glad that the series has been tackling this in this kind of a way, because I think it's doing a great job here. And ultimately, Jean takes inspiration from seeing Fear one last time, more or less, saying that she's always with them to a certain degree, no matter what. Which, is always true. Lost but not forgotten. I keep quoting Lilo and Stitch stuff here, I don't know why. It's a very powerful family-oriented series, and that's what we're getting into a lot of here. Speaking of which, RWBY ends up encountering Crow drunk off his ass outside of Jean's sister's place, and they end up dragging him inside. With Jean, when they meet back up, he says that, they're not going to continue on with their journey without finding Oscar, much to the surprise of RWBY, who, it's just surprised to have seen, whereas Team RWBY and everyone else had kind of gone through their whole moment of just coming to terms with their situation. Jean and his crew had to also go through their own acceptance of their situation. Because, it's like I have said before, their situation is very dire, it's very bad, and all things considered, it feels impossible. But it's still worth fighting to save as many lives as possible. You don't go into a service of protecting people because, you think that you'll absolutely, regardless, win no matter what, blah, blah, blah. You do it in order to protect what little glimmer of happiness people can have. And that's the main important part. Just protect the people you love. That's the name of the game here. That's what soldiers do. That's what policemen do. That's what firefighters do. They go in to protect. And that's just the main goal there. And we end up finding that Oscar has returned to the house with new battle gear on. Well, it's more or less just like a coat and stuff, but it's a very cute look for him. And he's actually been inside cooking a nice meal for everyone. Jean takes this moment to apologize to Oscar, saying like, look man, I was way out of line, I never should have said all those things, I was just so caught up in the grief and the challenges ahead that I just lost sight of things. And Oscar forgives him. Just like, look, it's a lot of stuff that I've been thinking of myself, honestly. And there's this nice little reconciliation with everyone as they decide to just try to continue pressing forward. However, Crow is still just lost, for lack of a better word. He's just lost at this point. He's at a loss for what to do, and he's just like, yeah, huggy kissy stuff, we're still at a dead end, there's nothing more that we can do, we might as well just give it up. But Jean, comes in and proposes that there's still a way to proceed forward, and that would pretty much be to steal one of Atlas's, ships, go into the base, steal a ship, and make their way to Atlas. Which almost everybody's just like, oh my god, how would we even do that, blah blah blah. And Crow especially shoots that down. It's just like, dude, you're talking about going up against the military, there's definitely no going back from that, that's throwing away your lives, no, we shouldn't, no, that's a terrible idea. But RWBY has had enough of Crow's crap, And, to a certain degree, I have too. Because it's just like Crow has just been wallowing in the shadow of doubt and self loathing and desperation and pity for so long that it's just enough is enough. Everyone needs a little bit of hope to believe that there's something that they can do moving forward, that things have the potential to get better. And, she's not going to let Crow jeopardize everything. And if Crow, wants to join them and get the stick right out from out of his ass, they'll be glad to have him along. You know, and I love this inspirational moment because, it's obvious that Crow's taken aback, even Maria's taken aback, and everyone's just ready to rally behind RWBY. The determination that flashes in her eyes shows that she's not at a loss. She's ready to move forward and get things done, which I'm so glad for because this season has been good so far, but man, it has been a downer. Like, my god, I'm ready for our crew to finally get back on track and push forward. I love drama as much as the next person, but I want to get back to some bad guy busting. There's gotta be more that Team RWBY can do moving forward, and hopefully somehow save the world. But that's the end of our episode. I think it was great to find out that this is where Farrah had come and trained and was raised, and everybody thought she was gonna go to school there, but her mother explains that she had her heart set on Beacon. Something called her there. It might have been destiny, who knows. But, it's nice little things like this that help flesh out the world, its characters, its backgrounds. We got some nice moments with Mercury, Emerald, and Tyrion. That air of uncomfortable feeling that Tyrion just gives off is always so interesting and palpable. But then you had the moment with Jon and the red-haired woman who's obviously Farrah's mother. It's just like, it's so obvious. But that was wonderful, fantastic acting. The acting there was great. Like, my god, it was so good. And, the way the music, the Casey Lee Williams came in with this wonderful melody and this verse that was just so touching to the soul, and emotion from Jon's actor and Farrah's mother's actor was just, I think Miles Luna does the voice of Jon, I believe, and he just brought the emotion there. Because I won't lie to you, I'm a little crybaby, and I started tearing up, damn near bawling at that part. Ripped out my heart right then and there. Because the way the tears were animated, just welling up in their eyes, and the emotion in their movements, and how, Farrah's mother hugged the flowers as she talked about her daughter. It was so powerful. And, the team was on point with that moment. It was just fantastic. But hey, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What was your favorite part? The part with Mercury and Emerald, getting to know more about them. The part with Jon and his reminiscence about Farrah, and with, I'll say it till my dying breath, the woman who was obviously some form of relative to Farrah. Some kind of relative. Or maybe the part with, Jon reconciling with Ren and Nora and how he's been acting. Or maybe Jon reconciling with Oscar. Or RWBY finally standing up to Crow and no longer coddling him, I guess you could say, with everything that's gone on. It's just lots of powerful moments in this episode. and tell me what was your favorite, please. And if you liked what I had to say here, leave me a like. If you didn't like what I had to say, feel free to leave me a dislike and tell me what I'm doing wrong in the comment section below so that I might better myself for future videos. And hey, how about subscribing? Because I'll definitely be bringing you more episode reviews of RWBY, because the emotion and the heart still remains. I know there's been a lot of rumblings from people who have previously worked on this series, which is very sad to hear here and there. If you don't know anything about it, I won't bore you with the details. Just a little bit of mistreatment here and there for certain people who have worked on this series, which it's just unfortunate, because this is a series that was a labor of love by one man who made his dreams come true during an era where, creativity is the struggle that everyone's going through. And that should be the last thing that should ever come about with a series like this that is a labor of love from the great Monty Oum. Forever rest within our hearts, and always an inspiration to those who want to go out and make their dreams a reality. But until next time, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.